All right, welcome back to episode 20, which was the final episode of this Heroes Only Challenge series. Took me forever to find Brock Goldrin, Dwarf Sorcerer, the last of the 5 enemy AI units, but in turn 141 I finally did. And so you can see what it looked like here. So there was Brock. He was up here. I found him in this quadrant, and the capital was here. So I took it in 2 turns, so we can look at those. So that's where I took this city. I don't think, yeah, so it was two battles for there. Ended up capturing the city here, and then I spotted him up here. And for this one, it was because I had taken his capital just prior. I just bum rushed him back here. So just ignore his folks and get ready to do a nice big backstab. Weakening, throw curse, kill died to be exposed. So, and that won me the game. So, what to talk about? Let's review 44,000 gold because I was never able to spend it on anything. You can see that I finally re-raised. I had gone through the map another round and re-raised most everything. So, I was finally able to eliminate most all of the city's sorcerer force down here. So I had to basically do a second run through of the entire map to finally run into him and eliminate cities and reduce the number of places they could hide. So it was pretty annoying. I was casting Age of Death just in case he attacked some independent stack, and then I would have units spawn there and I could see. That was the only reason I was casting it. Otherwise, this is what I had left in my book. In terms of notable stuff, Whispers was up the vast majority of the time during this game. Damnation occasionally. Enemy of the Faith was up. Late in the game, Power Ritual was up for periods of time. I was working on Age of Death there. A bunch of got Harbingers early, Shrines of Life, all the Necromancer levels, advanced logistics I've had forever, so not much in the way of the passive Empire upgrades were left. In terms of combat spells and what I ended up using, Death Ray a little bit early on, as you saw from a prior episode, occasionally a Dispel. Once I used Black Lightning, Stiffen Limbed a bunch, but mostly early in the map. Gift I used maybe once, didn't use Siphon this time around. I don't think I used Dark Gift this time around. Didn't use Swap. Used this once, but not very effectively. Degenerate used it a bunch for ghouling. Never needed to do this. Never used this, but could have used Arachnid Horde a few times, used Scourge of Undead several times. Used it in Dying Army once or twice. Used a Great Stoning once, though it was disjointed pretty soon after. And then Hailstorm I never used. So that's where I ended up with spells. But, I mean, obviously this is the end, episode 20. I didn't show you a bunch of the battles between episode 19 and 20 because there was nothing remarkable, right? I have powerful stacks of hero units at this point. And so now's the point where I want to review who's got what. So my leader was out here. I picked this up very late. I've never picked this item up. That's amazing. This is so cool. You able to fire a cannonball with a hand cannon. But I was keeping him far away from enemy lines, so he was not souped up. This was a mid-tier guy I didn't do a lot with. same with this rogue, was leveling this rogue up late. I should make a point of talking about artifacts I really thought were useful. This, I could have placed more optimally because the shock protection would have been useful occasionally against the sorcerer I was facing prior to this. Seeker helmets, you know, a bunch of people had. Over here, what's interesting? Yeah, nothing terribly interesting here. Now, this mythical weapon, the lifesteal and the +4 melee strength is considerable, but I still prefer having life drain for my tanky heroes generally, even if it means less melee strength. But it's a neat item nonetheless. This not terribly amazing. These 80, oh no, it's something else. And nothing terribly amazing here. And I should go hero by hero. So he had the Summon Siege engine. This Dreadnought had Summon Siege engine. This guy had both sadism and smokescreen sadism, with sadism with a +100. If you're doing big siege battles, that can stack up a lot. The +1 melee damage and the morale boost is nice. And the smokescreen for the +4 can be really nice too. But I didn't make much use of it because it's so late in the game. Scourge of Undead on this guy. This guy was trying to build him to be a tank. Didn't get a whole lot of use out of him, but I was ready with the life drain and the tireless. This Frost Aura cloak is nice. The projectile reflection is nice. So that's it for those guys. Let's come up here to this stack. So 80, 20, 11. I think you saw most of these items before. Nice phase and dazed is useful. And would use Last Stand from him occasionally. This is one of the Theocrats. 95, 21, 15 can soak up a lot of damage. First Strike Polearm is decent, but still not as good as a life drain setup. Occasionally, if you're facing mounted units, it's obviously excellent. Significant amount of shields. I mean, potential 6 shield from that is pretty great. Jack's Gift, the healing, the excellent. This is excellent for Necromancer with the fire and shield. +3 is pretty decent. And they have some the divine protection and the instant wrath, and the Slayer's Doubt. Useful, very useful situational spells. For this Theocrat, who I got late in the game, was starting to level them up, but had nothing of super interest. This person who I just killed when I won the game, that fire protection and the flying would have been useful. Have that come into my possession. Spirit protection can be useful. Yeah, nothing else interesting there. I had a lot of fun with this human rogue for anti-machining with the Demolisher and the shock, especially this fire aura. If you have enough mana regen from the lifesteal, if you're facing organic units, a fire aura shield to add to the damage every time they perform a melee attack, you can just really drop enemy forces. This is the 80% shock protection jewel, which I have a few of, which are really nice. And then the 40% fire is nice on that. So this guy, 100, 100, 20, 100, 100, 60, 60, 80. So pretty decent. This is kind of like even better boots rather than the regular tireless. They also have free movement and defense. Really, really nice boots. It's one of those defender ones. So you go from like, 20 defense and boost that up. Dome of Frost, I just got this recently, and this basically does some debuff and damage every turn. So this is a guy to plant in the middle of an army between the fire aura damage and the Dome of Frost. Just a lot of a lot of damage you can be doing. So, and the cool thing about these rogues, of course, is the total awareness. That was pretty fun. And I talk more about in my guide, and specifically the Heroes Only Challenge tab of the Draconian Necromancer spreadsheet. I give some suggested itemage for the type of hero roles you would have in this sort of challenge. And it also applies beyond Heroes Only challenges, but I give some suggestions that align with some of the items you see here. With this, Scourge of Undead was being cast. He was keeping his distance. This is the Call Lightning. It's got some great, I mean, the +1 and the +3 for melee versus machines is great. It's just silly. It's kind of paired with Call Lightning because usually you want to be up in their face rather than calling lightning. So I opted to use this at a distance on this halfling unit and paired with Seeker for long distance shock. Yeah, so those are the interesting things with that army. We'll go underground for the sorcerer stack that I had going. So these are the 4 sorcerers. I think I've been over this unit in prior ones. This was just enough to cast like 2, I could throw in the statics, basically 2.5 of these things. So 2 harmonizing energies or 2 sphere of protections plus a magic fester or something similar to that. We talked about those items. There's another pair of those shock boots, Sirens, Whale of Despair. It's too bad this doesn't help if you're an army leader when the undead units. This has the Siren's Whale for the physical cone damage. Talked about that. I think we talked about these. One of my optimal quivers, the Shack and Cold, plus the Inflict Enfeebling Fever. So a lot of debuffs. So a lot of stuff happening with each attack, including the Inflict Stun, Inflict Enfeebling, Bleeding Wounds, Spirit Breaking, just like a whole lot of debuffs by it. Some just decent protections, and then the Seeker, of course. And then these are great for gold units, 100% Spirit Protection. Another one of those quivers. Inflicts severely poisoned. It's a bit high morale. Let's raise that a little bit. That is about it. So those 4 sorcerers were useful. And then this is the last stack of units over here. So this is a good example. So with this warlord leading the army, the warlords are great as army leaders. I got him enough casting points to get up to Bloodbath for the +5 melee. Polearm First Strike and Lifesteal and Melee Strength, really nice mythical weapon. Really nice. We talked about that. We talked about the rest of this stuff. 100% fire protection. I can't use the Resurgence as undead, but the fire protection is pretty amazing. +4. It's really strong. But the buffs they were giving included the Blood Brothers to everybody, which is very useful. The toughness for the 20% everybody, defense command to everybody. The ranged commands, most of these folks are melee, so it's not as useful as the melee command, which was also in the mix. Yeah, so you can see for somebody like this Dreadnought, 90, 19, 14, I think we've seen all of these things before, but what's really nice here is the 40% physical between the toughness and the 20%. 80, 40. That, and then this guy, of course, was super tanky. So one of my best protected, 100, 180, 140. So I could have moved some stuff around, but 85, 26, 13. I didn't maximize HP on them because I was having them get paired with this Theocrat, who I put up to 115 with lots of focus on HP all in one person because they were doing the absorb pain. You could cast some useful things there. Over here, nothing super fancy here. Scourge of Undead. This is Choking Fumes plus Summon Siege Engine, so enough to do both. He was pure tank. Talked about them. Enough to call Beast Horde plus call Lightning. I wasn't efficient enough with my points, so I wasn't also able to get Regrowth. Would have liked to. Really love Regrowth. It's one of my makes Archdruids one of my favorite ranged classes because of the Regrowth buff that they have, especially if you can stack HP on them. So that is all the units and the artifacts and whatnot. Such a long list of things. It's kind of fun. For better on a rogue, of course. Yeah, I have the bloodbath. So I think that is it for all the heroes. I talked about the spells. Having done this challenge successfully, I have a lot to say in the heroes only specific advice section of my Steam guide. I'm writing that up currently and should be mostly available by the time you're watching this, where I, based on this experience, give advice specific to this sort of heroes only challenge that varies from some of the advice I give in the general guide. So if you scroll to the bottom of the guide, you should see that additional stuff. So I don't think there's anything else we needed to show. But we'll end the game and we'll go to the stats screen. Yep. So let's exit here. Okay, so score. So I am in white. So you can see, because I didn't hold much in the way of cities, my overall score looked a lot crappier compared to the Necromancer, Alley, Brock, and Helenis. Let's look at some other stuff. So you can see my knowledge was very slow over time because I didn't hold cities. We had 2 opponents cap out pretty early on. Happiness won't mean much of anything. Military, my alignment is very low throughout, right? Because it's just hero units. So they look much more powerful, which is ironic, but what I did have, they were super powerful units. And what you'd expect, I keep raising cities, so I don't hold a lot of domain throughout it. Whereas once I start carving in. And so, like for these folks, they were still able to rise because they were able to dance around me and resettle stuff as I passed by. So that's it for that. So hopefully this has been interesting. I had a lot of fun doing this challenge. I won't do this challenge exactly the same way again. I have to, if I'm going to do a heroes only thing, I have to think of some new twist on it to make it even harder. Because while this was challenging, it felt challenging up until I had about 8 heroes, at which point it wasn't that bad. And by episode 11, I had 7 heroes. I forget what turn that is. But I think I have to find some other way to spice this up. But at any rate, thank you for checking this out. I think this is a really sort of fun challenge because a lot of the appeal of Age of Wonders 3 is being able to mess with heroes and upgrade them and optimize them and then max them and itemize them well and stuff like that. So this challenge was fun that I got to focus just on building up heroes. I think it would have been interesting if I had allowed the heroes to progress beyond the level cap of 15. They would have been able to get a lot more powerful, which could feel satisfying and overpowered, but it wouldn't be as challenging, right? So I knew I wanted to cap myself out at 15. So if I'm going to do a challenge, if maybe I limit myself to like 6 heroes, a single stack for the entire game, which would probably be pretty challenging. If I was to do something like that, I might want to consider raising the level cap in that case to kind of balance things out. But yeah, so if you found this interesting, please check out the other challenges on my channel. I've done a variety of different challenges of varying degrees. I think the hardest challenge to date was definitely the 40-turn head start for my 5 allied AI enemy opponents challenge that I did prior to this one. That was really grueling and was many, many turns until I finally beat them. And it required a whole lot more perfectionism than this one did. This one was a lot more manageable and a less micromanagey. But if you want to see probably my best work, that series is interesting, though. The thing with that series is that it's a recording of my entire playthrough the entire time I was playing, rather than recaps, quick recap videos like this series was, which is what I tend to do. Just a little bit more YouTube friendly, a little bit shorter. But yeah, check out the other stuff on my channel. Hope this was interesting, and look forward to recording some more challenge stuff and posting it to the channel in the future. So thanks a lot.